I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the City of Winkler is situated on Treaty 1 land, the home of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that have been made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past. We dedicate ourselves to a future based on respect of all people, including Indigenous communities, in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration, moving forward to a harmonious, prosperous future together. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Andrew?
Second?
Peter?
I think Marvin got you there, Pete. All in favor? That is carried. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting of March 14th, 2023 be adopted. Mover?
Don Fair.
Second?
Peter?
Any comments on those minutes? All in favor? And that is carried. Moving then into correspondence, you will see 3 pieces of correspondence there. FCM letter on an operating grant that we received, which is kind of nice.
Nice to see, yep.
More fun than that is the next letter, which is communication from Minister of Municipal Relations with regard to our grant that we receive from them on an annual basis. $1.672 million is nice. It incorporates that 600 and some odd $1,000 increase that we had this year. So that's good to see. And then a kid sport letter asking for support. Do we have any comments or questions from council on any of those pieces? Okay, we will then continue. Be it resolved that accounts payable in the amount of $556,929.41 as approved by the Finance Committee be approved for payment. Mover?
Andrew?
Second?
Don?
Check register, as always, is attached. Any questions on what you see?
I got a question. The page 2 is a little different than norm. Correct? At least on mine it is.
Take a look.
Meaning it's not clear, or?
Well,
Just a
usually
different
it's-
format, that's all.
Yeah, like it usually says who the check is for.
That one is all Bell and
Bell and
TS.
TS.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
With, I think, 2.
And that's I think a transfer, so it's not a direct check.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Okay, any additional questions? All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2302-23, the tax levy bylaw, be given second reading. Mover?
Andrew?
Second?
Don Breeden.
Any thoughts or comments on what you see there? All in favor? That is carried. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2302-23 be given third and final reading. Mover?
Peter?
Second?
Don Fair.
Don Fair. Any last questions? All in favor? And that is carried. Moving into transportation and utilities, be it resolved that the Transportation Utility Committee minutes from the March 15th, 2023 meeting be adopted. Mover?
Marvin.
Second?
Andrew?
Any questions on what you see there?
Only on page 3, there's a attaching contract. I think that's supposed to be patching, otherwise that's good.
Nice catch. It is indeed supposed to be a patching contract. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the swamp minutes for the March 22nd, 2023 meeting be received for information. Mover?
Peter?
Second?
Michael?
Any comments, Peter, that we should know about?
Lots of exciting stuff.
There's quite a bit of it's detailed there, yes.
The annual MAR conference, which is Manitoba Association of Regional Recyclers, is gonna be held in Morden this year.
Oh, nice.
So we're gonna be doing some tours, some of the delegates will be doing some tours to our landfill. We had an audit on our airspace, which does the number of years that we have left on our landfill. And the audit comes back that it's got 67 years left. I
Really?
think we have more, but this is what the auditors came up with.
That's significantly different than we had like 5 years ago.
What was it, 5 years
It
ago?
was 90 something.
Yeah, well, we've been taking a lot more
Right,
material,
but
but
there, I thought we'd had
Right.
some settlement there too from all that.
could be different auditors, I don't know.
But that's a significantly different number that
That is,
potentially affects how we reserve funds for future cells and/or expansion.
That doesn't seem right.
they might be out, I don't know, but this is the official audit. We're gonna celebrate 25th anniversary of the landfill this year. We're 2 years behind, but because of the last couple of years, the goings on, been a little bit different, so we'll celebrate it this year. The place was started in '96, was the first load of garbage that went to the landfill. And I think the AMM is gonna put forward a resolution to put a levy on mattresses at point of sale,
Okay.
because disposing of mattresses is a huge problem, so we're looking, the AMM will see a resolution
That's good.
to that.
Because
What do they do with them now?
we offer them for free. You can drop them off for free. And then Swamp pays for them to be delivered, to be recycled.
Oh, okay.
There's a company called Mother Earth that actually recycles them. They take them apart and because they're hard to compress and they get tied up in the equipment's
Okay.
tracks and wheels and stuff. It's more of a hindrance to us than anything else, so.
Do you know
That's why we
who's
just soaked
sponsoring
it
that
up.
resolution?
Nancy Penner was talking about it.
Morden, I think. Morden?
Morden, yeah.
Or City of Morden,
That's
sorry.
something that maybe more swamp member municipalities could get behind.
Yeah, I think that's what they talked about.
Yeah, they wanted to have Winkler and Stanley support at the end for that, yeah.
Good.
And I can't imagine that we wouldn't want to.
Yep.
Nice.
That's it for me.
Okay. All in favor? That is carried. Be it resolved that the Planning Committee minutes for the March 16th, 2023 meeting be adopted. Mover?
Don Friesen?
Second?
Don Fair?
Any comments or questions on what we have there?
No, don't think so.
That was a big agenda.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the MSTW Planning District minutes and reports for the February 2023 meeting be received for information. Mover?
Don Fair?
Second?
Don Friesen?
Anything we should chat about there, Don?
Well, everything's a bit slow this year, except we have some big projects that are coming up with Boundary Trails Hospital is starting to go, and a school in Morden is starting to go, so those are the two big ones. And then we have some contract work that is keeping us busy in the eastern part of our area, so. And, you know, it's sad to see, but as far as with permits and that, with the fires that we've had this year in our community, it's, you know, there's always a cost for rebuilding that as well, and
Yes. Okay, thank you, Don.
that's it. You're welcome.
Any questions? Not seeing any. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that bylaw 2300-23 be given first reading. Mover?
Don Friesen?
Second?
Peter?
As you can see there, this first reading creates the public hearing that comes from that. can see what's being proposed, and we'll have the hearing at the next meeting, Jody?
I don't recall if it is going to be the next one, but
Timing might not be
it will
enough.
come shortly, and then there will be a full report to council.
Didn't the planning committee minutes talk about changing all these?
Or reviewing the whole.
Review.
Mhm.
Okay, you're reviewing them, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Any additional thoughts? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the following amendments be made to Schedule A of the Traffic and Parking Bylaw number 2283-22. Mover?
Don Friesen.
Okay, and the scheduled amendments, you can see them in Schedule A. They are highlighted in red, I believe, the changes. Anybody have any questions or thoughts? All in favor?
Did you get a second?
You got a
I
second?
don't think we have.
Did I
I'll-
not
I'll
get a
second
second?
it for
Don
you.
Fair would like to second that, Jody.
Thanks.
Got it.
Good job.
After we put it on the floor, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you, Don, for helping me out.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That takes us to item number 12. That is Councillor Marvin Platt to run for a seat on the FCM board. There's a number of whereases there. Hopefully each one of you have read them already. We'll get to the resolution. Be it resolved that Council of the City of Winkler endorse Councillor Marvin Platt to stand for election on FCM's Board of Directors for the period starting in May 2023 and ending in October 2026. Be it further resolved that Council assumes all costs associated with Councillor Marvin Platt attending FCM's Board of Director meetings. Mover,
Andrew?
second.
Michael?
Quick point of clarification, the be it further resolved piece is strictly there from a legal point of view. As we know, the Association of Manitoba Municipalities, in order to have the smaller member municipalities also being able to appoint board members to FCM, covers those costs. When I asked Jody about this, the best we can assume is that they're covering themselves in case the AMM Board of Directors ever changes that policy, that in that situation, we would have the responsibility to do so. But standing policy today is that AMM covers those costs back to Winkler.
FCM, yeah.
AMM covers those costs
Oh.
back to Winkler,
AMM covers FCM costs?
correct, for Manitoba representatives.
Okay,
As it
Nice.
should be, because we're not,
right.
board members are not representing only their own municipality, they're representing the whole province.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Any questions on that?
Nope, thanks Marvin for continuing to serve there.
Absolutely, thank you. All in favor? That is carried. We will notice that Marvin abstained the vote on that. Be it resolved that this meeting of council recess for the purpose of holding public hearings. Mover,
Peter?
second.
Michael?
All in favor? Carried.
I think we're just gonna make sure if there's anyone in the lobby that wants to be part of this public hearing that
Please.
they're able, or Wendy, did you wanna check that for us? Okay. As always with our public hearings, we'll describe the public hearing and then, once we're open, if anyone wants to speak to it, we ask that you come to the mic, state your name and address, and then you can speak to the issue at hand for that public hearing. We've got two to look at here tonight. So I'll start with the first one. We have a rezoning application, RZ 2023-001 and bylaw 2298-23. And the general intent of the above bylaw is to zone the land described in the application there. And it is at 1650 Northlands Parkway. And it is going from a combination of R1 residential and R3 residential, to all R3 residential, which is the higher density zone. And so this application's been made and there have been no objections received by our office to the application.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to that? Not seeing any. Council have any questions? Nope. Okay. Be it resolved that the public hearing for bylaw 2298-23 be closed. Mover?
Marvin?
Second?
Don Friesen?
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that bylaw 2298-23, 1650 Northlands Parkway bylaw be given second reading. Mover.
Peter?
Second.
Michael?
Questions? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that bylaw 2298-23, 1650 Northlands Parkway bylaw be given third reading subject to a development agreement. Mover.
Don Fair.
Second.
Marvin?
Last chance for questions. All in favor? And that is carried. Go ahead, Jody.
Okay, now we have a variance application, number VA 2023-002. And the purpose here is in order to construct a sunroom. Applicant and owners are Ken and Lois Bergen. The variance requested here is to reduce the required rear yard setback from 25 feet to 14 feet in the R1 residential lower density zone. This is for the purposes of building a sunroom, and we do not have any objections to this application.
Thank you, Jody. Is there anybody here who wishes to speak to this? Not seeing. Anybody, any of the council have a question? Not seeing. Be it resolved that the public hearing for variation number VA 2023-002 be closed. Mover.
Don
Peter.
Friesen?
Peter got you there, Don. Don Friesen can second. You're okay with that, Don?
Perfect.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved,
I didn't vote because I'm in conflict, so.
Marvin is a neighbor in that area. If we could have the minutes show that Councillor Platt didn't vote, as he is a resident in that area. We closed the hearing. We haven't voted to approve yet, have we?
That's correct.
Okay. Be it resolved that council approve variation number VA 2023-002. Mover.
Don.
Don Fair. Second.
Michael?
Michael. All in favor?
Question,
Whoop, my
there's
apologies.
any drainage issues in this area?
Not that I know of.
Not to our knowledge, and this is consistent with many of the other houses on that bay as well.
Fair.
I think there was
Just-
more issues with the area that's further north of there had more drainage issues.
There was an issue with the fence line maybe
Yeah.
Just saying this
years
would be-
ago. but-
This would be one opportunity then to rectify that if there
Yeah.
is, right? But,
Yeah.
okay, no, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. All in favor? Carried. And again, the minutes show that Councillor Platt did not vote. Be it resolved that public hearings be adjourned and regular council meeting reconvene. Mover.
Marvin?
Second.
Peter?
All in favor? Carried. We have two community spotlights today. Firstly, we'll hear from Central Station. Is there anybody here to speak for Central Station? Indeed, there are.
This is significantly more people than it was last time I did this.
And the floor is yours.
There are slides, are
Yeah, it's coming.
coming, okay. Oh, that's not the right one.
Oops. Oh, okay, that's the second portion.
We're splitting our time. Switch it, or do you want her to start?
I got the other one right here too.
Okay.
And that one's a slideshow, right?
Yeah, it's a PowerPoint. Perfect. All right. So I'm here to just update you on the Safe Communities Initiative as we try to do every year. We just want to thank you, first of all, for your investment into the community and the work that we do. We feel that we have a responsibility to report back to the community on what is happening, and what direction we're heading with this work. If you're not familiar with community mobilization, this is a model in which individuals, groups, and organizations in a community come together to address issues facing high-risk adults, such as education, health and safety, crime prevention, and community development. Our two guiding principles is that it's strength-based and voluntary. So the kind of theme of my chat with you today is just about a meeting that I attended recently with Cassandra Dawkin from Manitoba Justice. She is the senior policy and analyst with Manitoba Justice. We met together with 13 different community mobilization units in Manitoba, as well as law enforcement representatives from each community. She gave us a short update on community well-being planning that is taking place. So I just wanted to share a few highlights from that. This is a planning process that supports collaborative approach to addressing local priority risks to safety and well-being through implementation of programs and strategies in those 4 areas of social development, prevention, risk intervention, and incident response. Community care, are the program that you are supporting as a community, it falls into the risk intervention circle. Through this process, communities can reduce crime and other risks using evidence-based responses that address unique local circumstances and the needs of its residents. The report on the independent review of the Manitoba Policing Services Act of 2009, released in September of 2020, recommended that Police Services Act be amended to incorporate community safety and well-being planning as a mandatory requirement for municipalities in Manitoba. In April of 2022, Manitoba announced support for the community's well-being planning project. This project is going to include 12 communities, 6 rural, and 6 First Nations. Communities selected experience high levels of violent crime, victimization, property crime, and other social issues. And this model of community well-being planning is already well underway, and Manitoba is clearly taking the direction of mobilization teams to reduce pressure on already overwhelmed social services and systems. Cassandra indicated that this may become a requirement across Manitoba municipalities in the coming years. So the reason that we wanted to mention some of this is because this is the direction that clearly that Manitoba is heading. Community care, the program that is the Safe Communities Initiative, or was born of that program, is already a part or a facet of that. So we're a little bit of ahead of the curve, I think. The success of this initiative is largely based on 7 key factors. That it is strength-based, risk-focused, rather than incident-driven. It's based in community education. There's a high level of commitment expected from partners. We focus on effective partnerships that create meaningful and integrated partnerships across all sectors. And it's evidence and evaluation based, and it is culturally responsive, meeting the needs of a diverse community. We believe that each of these factors is key into bringing this program to life throughout our community. When not working with clients directly, we are working on each one of these key components of success. Community care consists of 17 different agency partners who have committed staff and resources. We are extremely grateful for these agencies and the level of commitment that they have shown to engaging and supporting those that are at risk in our community. As you'll see, we have 106 total risk factors that we monitor in our community. Risk factors have changed over the years. You'll see a report on this next slide. These are the top 5 risk factors that we've noticed in our community over the last 5 years. So mental health and cognitive functioning continues to be the #1 that we see. As of 2023, it's antisocial and problematic behavior. but mental health is, it's early in the year, so it might still overtake it yet later in the year. Some of the ones that we see consistently as well are substance abuse issues, as well as victimization and, let's see, physical health, I believe, is the one that comes up quite often as well. So to date, we have had 86 referrals. We have seen a significant increase in short-term interventions in the last 2 to 3 years, which is speaking to us to the level of crisis that our community members are facing. People are experiencing increased anxiety, higher and quicker escalations as compared to the start of the program. And we're finding that domestic violence is showing up along with homelessness and substance abuse at a much higher rate. Just to go over a few of the highlights of what is happening and has happened in the last year, we created a community care and Winkler Police Service liaison position together with the Winkler Police Service. And that is just an information sharing and community-based position. We attended the Law Enforcement Knowledge Exchange Forum recently. Our program was accepted in the Community Justice Committee. We had a successful integration of the referral process into the CW Weebs clinic system, so they're able to actually send referrals to our program directly like they would any other referral. We assisted Morden with the formation of the community care program there, and we were able to hire Esther Zacharias, who is here today as well. She is the other community care facilitator in our program who replaced Thomas Fraze last year. I'm going to wrap it up and hand it over to Lori. She's going to give you a little bit of a housing update, but we just wanted to just thank you. If you're interested in learning more about how the program works and what that looks like for our community, we'd love to hear more from you. My email address is there on the screen, or you can just reach out to me. Thank you very much.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
When you say community mobilization process, what do you mean?
Community mobilization means that when an individual is identified as being in crisis, we mobilize all of their resources. That might mean that we bring their friends, their family, their pastor, as well as their agencies that's supporting. So Winkler Police might come to the table, and the goal is that everyone comes to the table once a month, and that we create actionable plans and steps for that high-risk member so that we can move them down the escalation.
Nice. Makes sense.
Thank you.
Yep, thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Looks like
Awesome.
we're okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Krista.
Hello.
Hi,
Hey.
Lori.
I'm not as kind as Krista is. I'm going to say thanks for taking Thomas. We miss him.
I was waiting for that.
You're welcome. We trained him.
Yeah.
We can just skip on to the next. So Central Community Homes was renamed by our board, or by the Central Community Homes Board, which is, they run the housing in Winkler. They've hired us as, per se, a management company, but this is the team that comes to the table. Brad is project manager, has been hired on for just about a year, and just kind of mobilizes a lot of the, well, he's doing many things at Central Station, but mobilized a lot of the housing, and took probably half my workload with renovations and things and such that was taking away from what I'm good at. Amber is community care, or community support. And so often we will identify when we're working with families that are struggling in housing, we will, Amber will go in and work with some of the key components that are issues for the families, for them to have successful housing. So our priority when in housing, when renovating, is to provide a safe space for families to play and thrive together. Create neighborhoods that are cohesive and supportive. One of the visions that we had years ago, a few of them you were a part of that, and welcome to the new people that are part of our vision, and was that we wanted to make the social housing in Winkler look like their neighbors' housing, and also we wanted the neighbors to like their neighbors. And with that, I mean, that doesn't always happen because not everyone's neighbors like each other, but we have to make that attempt, and we really work really hard at that. In our next one, we have some before and afters for some of the units that we've renovated, and that's one of our houses that we renovated on, I think that's gonna be 7th Street. And just, you know, honestly, knocked out some walls, took out the cabinets, and like gutted the place and put it back together. That was a Christmas house, which is funded not by the city, not by Central Station, but by Mend the Gap, which is a charity that was created to mend the gap between the rich and the poor, which is not part of us. Like, we work with them. So our goals are that everyone has a right to live in a place that they can be proud of, safe and affordable. So of course, we work with the social aspect of the housing, which is the people who have less income or lower income families. We want families to grow up in well looked after housing. We maintain them. We have one maintenance person on contract regularly, but if that's something that is not their expertise, we will hire. That's a commitment that we made when we took over housing, was that it would be maintained. And we are, I'm gonna say we have 19 houses left to renovate. And the trick now is how to shift families. In the beginning, it's easy because there's lots of vacancies, but we have to fill them. We can't have, we're down to, I wanna say, 3 vacant, and that's based on the fact that we have, we're renovating them. And so, we offer tenant support, which is done through Amber and myself. It looks different for each family, so we're unique. Some of the people need more support, and they would go on to the community care program that Krista just spoke about. Our intention is to reduce barriers by encouraging them and walking alongside them in their journey. We also use a lot of different community volunteers through Central Station to help us build programs and support. For examples, Friendship, Driving, Advocacy Office. We have lived experience advocacy office in our building twice a week, and I was just told today that that's going to be increased to 3 spaces a week.
Very
and
nice.
It's filling up.
Hmm.
The next is just a little picture of programming at one of our buildings, which is right next to this building. It's Hillcrest Manor, and well-run program that's a partnership between us and Eden Healthcare Services. So just wanted to highlight partners are so important. We recognize City Council as our partners, and we just want to continue our relationship. I think, that's the before and after of the 9-plex that we manage on Royal Crescent. I will tell you, it's a fantastic place, and if ever you would like a tour, we would love to do that. I
Thank
do
you,
lots of tours. So, thank you.
Okay. Any questions of
Any
Lori?
questions?
Well, I would just want to make a comment to both your groups, like Central Station Community Housing. I sit on those committees, and just I'm blown away by all what happens. And what blows me away more is the partnership that has been created between the different groups, which I love to see, where it's not, you know, no silo working. It's just working together and just trying to make Winkler a better place. And I just, there's just, I sit on the committees, and I'm blown away by all the stuff that's happening behind the scenes that I didn't. You know, I knew the basics, but it's wonderful. Well done.
We're not interested in creating new programs.
No,
Partnerships are important.
Which is
Yeah.
great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Right
How
on.
many housing units do you have?
We manage 90 doors.
90 doors. That's a bunch.
Good
Mhm.
job.
Yeah, way to go.
That's it.
Any other questions? Thank you very much for joining us
Thank you.
today.
Thank you, Laurie.
That takes us to our second community spotlight, Winkler Pickleball Association. I believe John Clausen is going to share.
Thank you for this opportunity. On behalf of the Winkler Pickleball Association, I want to express our sincere thanks for an opportunity to share with you this evening. Despite its curious and unusual name, pickleball is the fastest growing sport in North America and I would be bold enough to say the fastest growing sport in Winkler. We didn't bring slides. We probably should have brought some pickleball things and whacked them at you, but we thought we were trying to be friendly tonight. But for those who don't know, pickleball is a court sport played on a badminton-sized court, which has elements resembling badminton and tennis. It requires very minimal personal equipment. The participants will have a good pair of running shoes and a racket, basically, or paddle. But it offers multiple benefits to players: exercise, fun for all, good competition for some, and multiple generational socialization. We've been playing in Winkler for 11 years, and it started 11 years ago with a small handful of players. By now we have over 125 players in our association, and we're pretty sure that we're not being bold when we say that we expect that number to double within 2 or 3 years. One of the beauties of this sport is that there's a competitive balance between men and women. They can play together at the same balance level, and between different generations. There's often 70-year-olds who are badly trouncing some of the 20-year-olds who are playing, and vice versa in many different ways. It's probably the most intergenerational sport of any sport that I know that I've ever participated in or that people are aware of. In Winkler, we have players in their early 20s and in their mid-70s and many in between. In North America, the age range is even greater. We offer several different levels, allowing people to play with others who are at roughly the equivalent skill level, but the overall goal in each setting is exercise, fun, and socialization. Having said that, we do have several players who have earned medals at provincial and national tournaments, so our representatives have done well in other settings. We've offered clinics throughout southern Manitoba, in Altona, Morden, Carman, Somerset, and we've watched pickleball mushroom in each of these settings as well. It truly is addictive. Over the last 11 years, we've played in parking lots, at Lions Park, in the arena, in Royal Hall, and in gyms throughout Winkler. We're thankful for the facilities that have been made available through the rec department, but today would like to invite you to join us in imagining how we can create more facilities and times when play might be possible. School gyms are our main location for playing and are only available on weekday evenings, Monday to Thursdays, and when no school events are planned. As numbers grow rapidly, we're running out of sufficient venues for play. Our association has been capably led by John H. Clausen, who will continue this presentation by sharing some visions and hopes we'd like you to consider with us. And because we saw your minutes and because we thought we'd keep it simple, we have a lot of representatives here, or at least a small sampling of our pickleball players, but we thought we'd keep it simple and just have John Clausen speak this evening.
Evening, everybody.
Good evening, John.
Just reminds me of something that I recall about John Clausen's. It's amazing being in a community where you have a number of people with the same name. I once had some friends try to get a hold of me in Winkler. They called the operator, and the operator started laughing. And she says, "Which one of the 26 John Clausens you want to start with?" I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to have a voice. I'd like to thank our fellow picklers for coming out and amplifying that voice, so you can see what we do have some support. And our goal here is, or our purpose here, is to make the city of Winkler aware that pickleball is a growing sport, and especially in Winkler. Our group, as John said, is over 125. There's a group playing at the senior center. There's small groups playing in churches and storage sheds and even the curling rink. In fact, next week, just to show you how we're growing, next week we have a beginner clinic. We're almost up to 30 people registered to start pickleball next week. It's growing, and we expect it to be doubled in a year or two. Pickleball is here to stay. If I was moving to a community, one of the first things I'd look for is, does it offer pickleball? And just to show you, Portage La Prairie just built 6 brand new pickleball courts. Even the little village of Miami is now putting in an indoor pickleball court. Our need is venues to play, both indoor and outdoor. As John said, most of our play happens in this high school gyms, or in the school gyms, and at Royal Hall. But we get bumped out quite regularly. In fact, in the next 5 weeks, we'll be bumped out 16 times. Outdoors, we play it at Lions Park, where we have painted lines, pickleball lines, and use portable nets. And it works, but it does create issues. The Recreation Department has helped us significantly, but they have limits in what they can do. Everything seems to be just a bit of a Band-Aid. We need daytime places to play, especially for our seniors. We need weekend time to play, especially if we want to incorporate families, my grandchildren, my children. We would like to host tournaments. We'd like to have a place that we call home. So we're looking for ideas and solutions. Here's a possible, some of them. Finding ways to use the exhibition center. Perhaps a rollout, there's this rollout pickleball court that could be incorporated. Using church gyms, but the liability there is, they want liability insurance and their cost is really high and they really don't want us. We could, hopefully, build a pickleball facility. 8, 10 courts. This could be multi-purpose. It could be cooperate with the City of Morden or RM Stanley. There's already a group out there working on this and looking into it. I'm pretty sure our community and businesses would support anything that we do. I know there's grants available. The province has a grant right now for $5 million, up to $5 million. And pickleball is a Bing word when you apply for grants. It's integrational, it's seniors, it's activity, it's health, it's all inclusive. Even GVC is looking to partner up or looking to talk about having a pickleball tennis court. We are willing to help. We're not expecting you to provide all these things. We're willing to help. Just to show you what we've done in the past 11 years, we've received about $10,000 worth of grants for equipment, number of different grants. We've purchased about $6,000 worth of equipment. We got a government grant to help GVC get equipment, and now the high school, both high schools are playing pickleball, and so is a number of elementary schools. We got a grant to paint pickleball lines in the new Buhler Center so that the senior center could play pickleball. Last year, we got a $17,000 grant for portable nets at Lions Park. And we still have $3,000 of that left to help pay for the pickleball line painting if the resurfacing occurs this year. We've partnered with the Winkler Senior Center and the Recreation Department for a fantastic relationship providing pickleball. Our goal here tonight is to form another partnership. And it was really neat to listen to the other group talking about partners, because that's exactly what we're talking about too. We want to form a partnership with the City of Winkler. We want to put together a committee, a couple representatives from the city councilors, from the Recreation Department, and from our association. A task force to brainstorm, finding the best possible ideas and solutions for pickleball in the future as it grows in Winkler. It's time to come up with a plan. And the question is the city willing? I'll answer any questions if you have.
Well, John, I would say that $5 million grant you referenced, we certainly had some hope that we might get it. We had an application in. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful in getting that grant after the City of Winkler, without any taxpayer dollars whatsoever, built the Meridian Exhibition Center. Outside of Winkler taxpayer dollars, built the Meridian Exhibition Center. We sure hoped that Manitoba and Canada would come to the table for the second part of that. Canada did come to the table. Unfortunately, Manitoba chose not to join us, at least in round 1. And we're definitely going to go back and make application in round 2, and that would be for a retrofit of the existing Centennial Arena. And if we know that pickleball is going to help get us that $5 million, we'll certainly toss that into the mix as well.
It's a Bing word.
It is.
That's why you didn't get it.
Well, maybe should have known.
I know, you didn't.
Where were you 6 months ago, John?
Playing pickleball.
Do we have any questions of John?
How many courts would you say is like typical in a tournament on a weekend?
Tournaments, well, Probably, my guess is if you can get 8 courts, you can run a decent tournament.
Okay.
You can probably do it with 4. It depends on the courts. Now, we have gyms, but we've already looked into doing some tournaments, but they really don't want to, A, they don't want us there on weekends, and B, we don't want to be able to afford their price on weekends. Weekends are just a whole different.
Expensive.
And how many courts do you get on Lions Park there?
Lines, well, right now, we're looking at trying to put six courts in if that resurfacing comes through. We have 4 there right now. There are 4 pickleball courts fit on 1 tennis court. That's the amazing thing. Now, Lions is a little tight because the fence is there, but basically on a good size tennis court, you get 4 pickleball courts. So that really helps. You can also do it different ways. You can put 2 pickleball courts, 1 on each side, so you can have 4, and that gives you a lot more space. But it's just a matter of how many pickleball courts do you want? And there's always plus and minuses. If there's a minus, they're being too close together, the ball is always rolling into the next person's court. But it's plus, everything's plus and minus.
And what kind of ceiling height do you need there?
We're playing
Sorry,
Royal
lots of
Hall.
detail.
What's Royal Hall? Is that 16 feet?
But that's what I ask, is that ceiling height
That
too
ceiling
low?
height, that ceiling height is absolute minimal. And the senior center is about, the beam that comes through the Buller Center is exactly the same as Royal Hall. So it's about 15, 16 feet.
Okay.
So I would say minimum should be about 20, but you can make 16 feet work.
Okay.
So you're talking about like roll-out mats. Is that quite costly for that? Have you looked into that?
A big size one was about $10,000.
So how many, is that 1 court?
That's 1 court. You can get a cheaper one, that's probably US. Now, the trouble with, we might have looked into that already, but the trouble is the surface that the exhibition center has all those little ribs on there.
Right.
And that's not allowing us to play on there. So to spend $10,000, I think we'd be willing to go in half to see if it would work, but to spend $10,000 and still not be able to get a decent bounce out of the pickleball might be a bit of waste of money. So we don't know.
And is Manitoba High School Athletics Association, do they have a recognized sport for that already? Or
No, not yet.
Okay.
Someday, Olympics, and it'll be in high school. It's played regularly in high school.
Fair enough.
Yeah, right now, I was looking at the Canada Pickleball site, and I was a little surprised when I read this, but they said the fastest growing group right now is the age 18 to 34 is the fastest growing
I
pickleball
believe
group growing up right now.
And the engine used to be seniors.
Yeah.
It all started at while I was working at the senior center. It started with John and Sharon and Paul and myself playing in the parking lot with cemented down posts and pails and old tennis nets. That's how we started. So that's 11 years ago. And the engine was then with seniors. It's not a seniors game anymore. So and that's the beauty of it. I've spent a lot of time in sports. Playing sports very competitively, but I'll tell you, there's not a sport like pickleball that you can pick up and play so easily, so quickly. Within 2-3 nights, you're playing half decent. And to be able to play you play 18, 20-year-old people against 85-year-old people, like it's in men and women and mixed and just men against women and women against women and men against men. It's just fantastic how you can rotate the thing.
So how many courts would you keep busy, like, every day of the week right now with 125 people?
We've got, we're going 4 nights. So basically, there's 4 courts in Pine Ridge, 3 in Emerado, and there's 3 in Parkland and 1. We can only get 1 court in Royal Hall. That's the other thing. It's
So
just-
8 courts right now?
So
It's double, we run two sessions.
we run 2 nights.
Okay,
Two sessions per night.
okay.
So that's 7, 10, 11, basically 11 a day.
Okay.
11 a day, and that goes a good 4 times a week.
I think the biggest need if we-
John, I'll get you to come to the mic because we do record and broadcast each one of our meetings.
In addition to the tournaments, somebody asked about tournaments, but the biggest need would simply be to allow citizens of Winkler and the surrounding area to play on weekends, when they're not at work, or to allow a lot more seniors. I think if we had daytime slots, we would have even more seniors involved than we do right now.
Right.
And if we had evening and weekend slots, we'd have a lot more young people involved. Yeah, some of us find it hard to go home and sleep after playing from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock in the night. It's pretty late for some of us.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council?
Are you good, Don?
Pardon me?
Are you good?
Yeah, they hear about it quite a bit now, so they're getting, I'm glad you guys showed up.
All we hear is pickleball.
I think I should
pickleball.
challenge Don in a match here.
Oh, yeah.
Never played before.
Really? Well, my son's sitting back there and I had to laugh because it used to be, I remember telling him we should come play pickleball and he says, Dad, that's an old man sport. And so I did finally convince him, and now he kicks my butt quite seriously, and he does enjoy, so he might. Yeah, it was a very humbling experience, but it is, it's great to play with young and old, and I truly believe for the community to move forward, it'd be a great thing. And I know people would, people that love playing the game, I wouldn't move right now someplace where it didn't have proper pickleball. That's just the way a lot of people think, and I'm not thinking of moving, but if I would, I thought about this group, and I said, right now, at my point, and I'm an average player, but I wouldn't move if they wouldn't have pickleball. It just, and that's the community that it creates, so, it's,
We don't even go on vacation if there's a pickleball court.
Is that true, Doc?
yeah.
I wouldn't go on vacation.
If I wouldn't find a pickleball, no.
New Mexico had pickleball courts for you?
No, that's where in Mason now.
I'll thank the Johns for the presentation, the education behind it. What I will suggest is that we're going to send this back to our Community Services Committee to take a look at your request in terms of what that looks like and how we can continue to partner with it. I do know that Jordan Drager is very supportive of the group and trying to find solutions that need to be there, very much so. So thank you, Jordan, for working with this group as well. And how we move forward ultimately is going to have to be a partnership. There's nothing that we can do on our own anymore, period. And what that partnership is, whether that partnership is strictly with the group here, whether that partnership includes the corporate community, whether that partnership includes our neighbors in Stanley and Morden and Roland and Rhineland, and who knows what exactly that needs to look like. But it is good to know the growth and what that means, so that helps us to prepare as well. But definitely your communication piece through Jordan, he'll communicate directly to you after our next community services meeting in terms of what your request can look like and where we go from there. Thank you very much for your time this evening.
Thank you.
That takes us to the end of our agenda, with the exception of questions from the media or public relevant to this meeting of council. We do have someone. Please.
My name is Karen Banman. I live in Winkler. My question is a little bit different, although I heard tonight about prevention, and I really believe that's why I'm here. At the public budget hearing, I presented to you a petition that was signed by 1,796 signatures from members of the South Central Regional Library.
Correct.
You acknowledged having received this petition as a PDF document via email,
Correct.
which was sent to you on February 16th. As a signatory of this petition, I'm requesting for the record, do you recognize this petition and the signatures therein as valid?
We recognize that we've received a petition.
Do you recognize the petition as valid?
The statements that are made in that position, we would have to check into those statements. You've challenged those elsewhere. So certainly we will recognize that you sent a petition signed by roughly 1,700 people. Is that correct?
The number from the group was almost 1,800.
Either way, we recognize that we have received a petition with a number of statements and a number of signatories. Signatories, of course, not all from Winkler, from the surrounding area.
Right, yeah, from the South Central Regional area.
Yeah.
That's right.
So thank you for your question.
Okay, so then.
You have a follow-up question?
One last follow-up question.
Absolutely.
So, if I may, when might we hear back from you with a date and time on the public hearing regarding the explicit books for kids being made available through the South Central Regional Libraries?
That request should go to the library. The request in terms of what books are made available in the library is through the Public Libraries Act, through the library. Your request should go to them for that request.
All right, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Do we have any further questions?
Good evening. My name is Diedrich Wall. I'm from the Arm of Stanley. And after hearing this last presentation, I've never tried pickleball, but I think I might have to try it. It sounds like a lot of fun. It really does.
I think there's a few of us that might.
Yeah, exactly, right? So my question is in respect to public safety. Again, it's pertaining to the books as well. Our question is, what would it take to get a public hearing on the issue of the explicit material available for our children through our South Central Regional Library?
I would again encourage you that that request should go to the library. As
The library board.
the library board, thank you. As a municipal council, we're governed by the Manitoba Municipal Act. The libraries fall under the Libraries Act. So there's a fairly clear separation between the two of them. Our responsibility towards the library is to appoint 2 board members and to provide operational funding.
Right, okay. I would just like to just add an additional note.
Please.
I was at the public meeting last Monday at the South Central Regional Library, and basically through instruction through council, as such as yourself and Orma Stanley and so forth, we did go there, and we wanted to present this petition there, what Karen just presented here.
Right.
And nobody was allowed to speak on the issue. So we feel like that we followed all the different procedures based on what we've been told by our elected officials, and nobody was allowed to say anything at that meeting. The meeting was adjourned early based on public misconduct, I believe they called it.
Okay.
Again, we don't have to get into the details,
No.
obviously, but we just kind of feel like we're at end's rope as far as what we can do. We are doing what we're told to do, but yet we feel like we don't have a voice.
And I haven't seen the agenda there. Rick, I'm not sure if you were on the agenda. I think that would be the key piece, to request to be on the agenda to present.
There was a request to be on
Okay.
the agenda and to have a delegation speak there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what happened at the meeting. I did hear that it adjourned early.
So therefore, we too don't know whether it was on the agenda or not. It was never clarified to us, so.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I can certainly, we can ask the question, because the request should go to them. I don't know, without knowing the specifics of the Libraries Act in terms of hearings and not, whether or not a request like that would be on the agenda outside of a meeting, or what that might look like. Definitely, if you get your name and email address to Jody,
Sure.
we can ask the question to see what that may or may not look like. Ultimately, as the board having the governing authority there, they may well decide to not hold a hearing. I don't know what their requirements are in that regard. I don't sit on that board, and I'm not intimately familiar with it, but I do know that we can get that answer for you,
Okay,
and we can send that your way.
I appreciate that. We would really like some clarification.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you so much.
Same for us, you have to register by which day, Friday?
And I think a very good point too, typically to speak at any public meeting, we need to register in advance of the meeting so that we can be on the agenda. In our situation here, because this still pertains to our budget and your requests are along those lines, it makes sense to do that. Typically, if in fact you were to come at a regular meeting of council without notice in advance, and the question or the comments weren't pertaining to the agenda, it would be difficult to open that up, because the business of the city, we typically want to keep to the business that's been advertised that day, in fairness to everyone who might want to speak.
Totally understand and respect that. And in regards to the library meeting?
Rick, I'll get you to come to the microphone. We record all of our meetings and
Yeah,
broadcast them.
I should know that by now.
Yeah, no problem.
Just going back, like I mentioned earlier, for this particular meeting that happened on Monday, like I said, there was clear registration in order to speak there. So we felt like that we followed the process as it is written and what we needed to do. We felt we upheld our end of it, but yet,
Yep.
like I said, there was never any, there was no clarification, or there was no confirmation that the request was accepted. So we, like I said, we did follow that procedure, but we just never got any
And
confirmation.
I believe, I'd have to find out again, and that'll be part of what we do find out.
Correct.
I don't know that the request has to be accepted, but certainly now noting what that is, we'll find out what that looks like, and we'll certainly share that with you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Because even when they're delivering here, we have a chance to prepare the room for that,
Correct.
right?
A quick point here again, because of the fact that if we expect a significant group, we want to make sure that we prepare for, so that we can make sure that we, A, have as many chairs out as possible so that we don't have to stand in the back of the room all meeting long, because sometimes you get tired if you have to do that. We want to make sure that we're able to receive our guests and be able to host them in a way that makes sense. That may well be the library's case as well.
I just have a question.
Sure.
So if the funding comes from council, and yes, it is a different, it's a different act completely.
Correct.
If the funding comes from council, then who is responsible for, like, they can clearly do their policies the way they are, but if they're doing something that's not quite 100%, and maybe pushing.
Not quite 100%, meaning?
Meaning that policies are being enforced prior to being accepted? So, for an example.
You have me a little bit
Yeah,
concerned.
it was vague for us too. So if policies, just hypothetically, if policies are being pushed the same night that they were enforced, whose the responsibility is that?
You would look to the Libraries Act for where you need to be in terms of where your concerns would be raised. We appoint 2 board members, so certainly if you specifically had a concern in terms of board activity, it would be no problem to email to Jody, but ultimately we have just a couple of board seats at that place. Your best plan would be to email their board, state your concern.
Lots of times
And then
have
go
been
from there.
done. Yeah, I'm just a little
Excellent.
concerned that those communications, it's a very hot topic. So I think that those communications might be misunderstood or pushed in certain ways that.
I think in this instance, it's difficult for me to off the cuff, which
Well,
is
maybe
again
you could ask
the key
the member
piece.
that you have that's on there, the rep that you have, and then maybe they can discuss that with you. Is it possible that those policies were being made that same night and being?
And this would be one of the reasons that, as we just stated, in order to be on the agenda, it's important to present to
Okay.
us in advance what we are, so that we can respond in a manner that gives you complete information.
Okay, but that can
So
be done, like you guys can have that conversation?
Today, the discussion is with regards to the financial plan, and you're asking things that aren't on the agenda and that we haven't had an opportunity to prepare for. So that question noted, and we'll have to look into it, because we can't answer that
Yeah, and I'm
when
just
we're
asking for who
surprised
the person
by
is.
a
Like,
meeting
if we were
here.
to make a delegation with you, is that the people that we would be talking to?
A delegation with regard to
That question?
the library, you
No,
would bring it
in
to the
regard
library.
Into the regard to the authority, or if there's something a little fishy that's going on, who's in, and because it has public funding, who is?
I would ask
Henry, if I
what
may.
you specifically meant with regards to fishy, because that part is crystal clear. But Jody, you have a thought?
Just to say, like, you're asking a little bit about authority, and it goes, just like for a council, if there were some questions about things happening, it would go to the province. When it comes to libraries, again, as the mayor stated, it's governed by the Public Libraries Act within the province, and there's a director of libraries within Manitoba who reports to a minister of sport and culture. They change the name so often, I don't know the
Yeah.
rest of the
Right.
name anymore.
Sports, culture, and heritage, yeah.
Yeah, so that director reports to that minister, but that director would be with the province, and that is who, my understanding would be who you would want to speak to it.
Thank you, Jody.
And I think that's a really good point, Christine, certainly in this respect. If you had concern with Winkler Council in terms of something untoward that we were doing, If you came to us and we didn't respond, your next activity would be to the municipal board to say, hey, this is what's going on, and they're not fulfilling their duties. So that makes sense that it would be very similar in that regard. Thank you, Jody.
And even if you had 2 members from your council,
Yeah,
that
because
would be the way.
those are representatives. Ultimately, that library board is accountable to the province through.
Through that act.
Yep,
And so those representatives necessarily not speaking on behalf of the funding that's coming through,
that's right. It really is a bit of a different hat that they wear at that time.
a different hat. But then, yeah. Okay, we'll go from there. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Any further questions this evening? Not seeing any. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn this meeting of council.
Peter?
Peter, second. Don? Don Friesen. All in favor?